Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of State Antony Blinken are in Germany for annual security talks with U.S. allies.
The vice president spoke today about the situation between Russia and Ukraine. She says it's important for everyone to remain united.
Our work together has been and will continue to be about strengthening our ability to deter activity in terms of aggressive activity by Russia as it relates to Ukraine, and about our collective defense, and again, the resources and the commitment that we have.
For more, CBS News correspondent Christina Ruffini joins us from Munich. Christina, Vice President Kamala Harris is...
Hi, guys.
Hi, how you doing? There's quite a delay there, so we just want to warn our audience. Christina, Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to meet with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky later this weekend. What are the expectations from both sides going into this meeting?
Well, it's interesting. The expectations for this conference initially were not very high because in past years where it kind of takes over all downtown Munich, you have a lot of current administration officials as well as formers and ministers and cabinet officials. It's like, you know, national security Super Bowl. Everybody comes here to hash out these problems and also enjoy themselves a little. But due to COVID, the event was really scaled back. So it was supposed to be much lower key. And then with this Russian buildup in Eastern Europe, they really have put the focus back on this meeting and some of the meetings the lawmakers are going to be having, including this meeting you mentioned between Vice President Harris and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, it's a bit of a risk. I mean, think about all the things you heard from Holly. You have that huge Russian troop buildup around his country. It's a bit of a risk for him to leave the country right now. You know, when that happens, when the leader leaves the country, sometimes bad things happen. But he thinks it's important enough to be here. Look, the Ukrainians are very fearful of European leaders and the U.S. making decisions about them without them. President Biden and Secretary of State Blinken have promised over and over again, we will not make any discussions, we're not going to make any decisions without including you. But if you're not in the room, you're not in the room, right? So President Zelensky is going to be here. He's going to meet with the vice president. Secretary Blinken is also here taking other meetings. The vice president's first meeting was with the NATO Secretary General, and she said that was by design, right? Because they want to emphasize alliances and they want to emphasize the strong alliance they are trying to put forward in face of Russian aggression. But as with any big group of people, you know, countries have their own domestic interests. Every country here is seeing this a little bit differently. And the U.S. and its European allies have not so far been able to get on the same page about how exactly they want to handle this. Everybody seems to agree there should be some sanctions, but some countries think they should sanction now as a deterrent. The U.S. argues, you know, that's the arrow in our quiver. We have to hold that back until Russia makes a move. Then you do sanctions, and there's a disagreement about what exactly to sanction and the mechanism to use to do that. So there's lots to talk about behind me.
Christina, as you know, Russia is not being represented at this meeting, the Super Bowl of international leaders, as you put it. Why no Russian presence there? And what happens next week?
So the Russian delegation a little while ago opted not to come. It's not a surprise that they're not here. But with this buildup, you know, they were going to be the focus whether or not they were here. So they're not here, and that kind of allows Moscow to set its own, you know, kind of concurrent agenda, right? If they're here, they're outnumbered. Whereas if they don't come and they send out their messaging, some of that messaging that Holly was talking about, they feel like they can control the story a little bit better. Now, there has been this back and forth between Russia and the U.S. If you remember back in December, Russia laid out its proposed treaties. It was more a list of demands as to what it wanted from the U.S., from Europe, and that included NATO getting out of Eastern Europe and a couple other things that the U.S. had said were non-starters. The U.S. then responded in writing to Russia. And this week, Russia responded again, you know, diplomatic note passing. The bad news in that document is it was really similar to the first document. A lot of these things that the U.S. and Europeans said absolutely not. But there is some good news in that the Russians said, look, there are pieces of this, things about arms control, things about troop exercises that we do see a window that we could talk to the U.S. and Europeans about. So Secretary Blinken and Foreign Minister Lavrov are going to meet somewhere in Europe. We don't know where. We don't know when. We think probably the end of next week. And the good news, maybe possibly adequate news, good seems a little bit strong, is that if these two men are still meeting, you have to hope that that means Russia is not going to take some sort of kinetic action, at least until they sit down face to face.
And the chess game continues. Christina Ruffini in Munich, Germany, that would be. Thank you so much.
Thank you both.